Hello everybody, I am the Aromantic Shipper, so let us just get into the video and talk about Fear the Walking Dead. So I am, and have been for years, a big fan of the AMC series The Walking Dead, of course based off the comic book by Robert Kirkman of the same name. The series has certainly had its ups and downs, and I've been making my position on the downs quite clear as I've been working on a rewrite of the show in my videos, but ultimately I think there's a lot more good than bad to find in it, and even after 10 seasons, I'm still incredibly invested to find out how it ends. After only 4 seasons of the spin-off of the Walking Dead series, Fear the Walking Dead, I just wanted it to go and die already. Don't get me wrong, I used to really like this show. While Season 1 wasn't that great, and Season 2, despite having some genuinely great stuff in it, was still somewhat disappointing, Season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead was utterly fantastic in almost every way, and cemented itself as one of the greatest seasons of this franchise. I mean it, Season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead was incredible. It had an incredibly engaging conflict and villains. It really went to some very dark and disturbing places with its characters, old and new. And my favorite episode of Season 3 would of course have to be Episode 4, the episode focusing entirely on Daniel Salazar, after it was revealed that he had survived. That episode was just a complete experience, man, like one of the greatest episodes of all time in this whole franchise. So great. So yeah, I really love Season 3, but with so many major characters dying in that season and others drowning in the river, with it being a complete mystery as to who would actually make it out alive, I wasn't exactly sure how the series was going to continue in Season 4. I mean, it kind of almost seemed like the ending to me. Well, we got our answer, as the writers, or at least the executives at AMC, thought it was a great idea to have a several-year time skip in order to accommodate Morgan Jones, a character from The Walking Dead who was never in the series before and had no connection to the show whatsoever, and for good measure, they decided that he should become the new main character of the series right off the bat in Episode 1, and killed off the 2 main characters from the first 3 seasons, Nick and Madison, and also made it into a show that is all about peace and love and charity coming off the back of the darkest season in the show so far. Genius, AMC! Pure fucking genius! Season 4 and 5 were so fucking bad, you guys. Oh my gosh. Like anyone who didn't watch those seasons, I envy you. They were some of the most dull and boring episodes of television I've ever seen. I mean, the first episode of Season 4 was actually pretty good, despite the fact that it focuses entirely on a character we've never seen before in the show, and people who haven't watched The Walking Dead would just be confused as fuck. I was confused as fuck, because it's like, why is this character who, was a supporting cast member basically becoming the new main character focus in this show, but whatever. And, but the premiere of Season 4 was honestly pretty good. I enjoyed it. But pretty much every other episode of the first half of Season 4 was pretty much shit. It constantly kept cutting back to boring flashbacks all the way throughout, trying to fill in the blanks between what happened between Season 3 and 4, unsuccessfully, since we still have no idea how Madison and her family got from the site of an exploding dam in Mexico to living in a baseball stadium in the good old US of A. But you know what? After the first half of Season 4 ended, I thought to myself, okay, I absolutely fucking despise the fact that this show went through this whole bullshit soft reboot and pretty much dropped every plot point it was setting up in Seasons 1 to 3. But you know what? I'm just going to try to enjoy this show for what it is now. And now that the series doesn't have to spend so much time and focus on fucking flashbacks, and flashbacks within flashbacks, the story can finally just move forward naturally. I mean, who knows? I like Morgan's character. Maybe this series could end up being fun. Spoilers, it wasn't. The second half of Season 4 is incredibly boring and stupid and fuck. All the cast members got separated for no reason. There was a guy who couldn't stop talking about fucking beer, and for some reason, after he got bit and was dying, the characters were all being really mean to him, which was just like, seriously, this guy who's dying from a walker bite, and the characters are all saying, wow, that bite really brought out the best in you. Like, what fucking assholes. And there was that crazy bitch who was using walkers to kill people. I don't know. I don't mean she led herds to people or sprung traps where walkers were released. I mean she just walked up to them and had the walkers on a leash eat them, and somehow no one ever saw them coming. And also, beer guy saved everyone's life, by jumping off a roof, and his sacrifice, and also beer in the end saved them once again, because the alcohol saved them from being poisoned by the antifreeze. Hooray for the finale, it was so exciting. Oh man, I sure hope Season 5 won't be complete shit. Hey look, Dwight's in the series now, and he holds up an axe, and John shoots a bullet at it which splits in two, killing two walkers coming towards him that he could have just walked up to and killed with the axe. Like, if there was ever a jumping the shark moment in the series, this was it! Fuck, man, that scene, oh my god! Oh my god, that was so stupid. Daniel is back, and he's boring as fuck now, and he basically just has become that crazy cat lady who lives a few doors down. And also a nuclear fucking meltdown happens, but who cares because all the main characters made it out okay, so that's all that matters, right? You know, maybe these charity workers could have tried to stop, like, the entire area from being polluted with toxic radioactive waste, but no, they were just content to, get out of there alive, even though there were probably still a bunch of people there that they didn't seem to care about. Like, what? Like, oh my gosh. If you wanted to save fucking people, Morgan, maybe you could have actually done something to, stop the nuclear fucking meltdown, like Grace said she was trying to do, but you said, no, we gotta get out of here, even though it goes, fuck, okay, wow. I mean, the first half of Season 5 was, just shit, so I hope this second half of Season 5 will be better. Holy shit, how does this thing keep getting worse? Season 5, Episode 9 has got to be the worst fucking episode this franchise has ever produced. It's literally Morgan and friends filming a shitty charity documentary about how great they are at saving people in the middle of fucking apocalypse. And that's it. It was so fucking boring. What the fuck was I watching? Oh my gosh. Other highlights of this season. Alicia stops killing walkers for some reason and starts painting trees. That villain whose name I can't even remember dies without even doing anything villainous. And a guy died because he wouldn't stop fucking vlogging while he was on a collapsing bridge. Dumbest fucking character ever. I laughed so fucking hard when he died. I have no idea how on earth the writers expected us to actually take that seriously. Oh my gosh, quite honestly, I wanted this show to just end so fucking badly. I was so incredibly pissed off at the executive meddling that ruined such an incredibly great show. Season 3 made it really seem like things were looking up for the show and that its story was really getting interesting and engaging, but its potential was completely squandered. All for what? To bring over Morgan and Dwight? I mean, granted, I like those two characters from The Walking Dead, but I really only liked them from The Walking Dead, and they became incredibly bland and boring when they moved over to Fear the Walking Dead. The worst part of the show was that a show which has literally has fear in the name completely ceased to actually be scary or dark, with ridiculously unthreatening villains and characters refusing to kill other people because they were all following the cult of Morgan Jones rather than constantly fighting with him like characters in The Walking Dead did. Conflict! The thing that actually makes things interesting to watch. And him now apparently fully being on board with his pacifist lifestyle again, despite him viciously murdering a ton of people in Season 8 of The Walking Dead. The show went from a tension-filled, bloody, apocalyptic drama to a fucking charity show, where the characters go around trying to help every single damn person who asks for it and somehow always make it out okay. The only reason I was still watching the show was because my obsessive-compulsive disorder was holding me at gunpoint, forcing me to get through the end. But I promised myself, after watching the end of Season 5, I was just going to drop this show. I would finally cleanse my hands of it forever, because there was no reason whatsoever for me to keep watching. And then the finale happened, and the first interesting thing to happen all season finally took place. Something actually went wrong for the protagonists, and Morgan got shot by Virginia, looking like he was on the brink of death. And goddammit, my OCD got cranking again, and I actually wanted to see what would happen to him. Goddammit, cliffhangers. They're annoying, but they work. But I was not in any way excited to watch Season 6 of the show, and I just wanted to be done with it so fucking badly already. But then the news started a-rumbling. Some trailers and concept art for Season 6 started coming out, and it looked kinda good. Then I started seeing some YouTube thumbnails for videos talking about the new Season 6 episodes, and people were saying that the new season was actually pretty good. There seemed to be a new excitement for this show again, which was incredibly strange for me to see, as I was absolutely sure that after how bad Season 4 and especially Season 5 were, there was no way this show could rise from the grave. But maybe Morgan was right. Maybe everything does get a return. So, begrudgingly, while this season was airing, I sat down to watch the show once again, just hoping so badly that I might be able to find something good in it, like an abused spouse going back to their partner hoping that they won't beat them again. And just to be clear, that was a joke. I'm not trying to make light of marital abuse by comparing it to me watching a really bad TV show. But anyway, I did end up watching the season all the way through, and it was better than was it better than seasons 4 and 5? Oh, absolutely. Was it actually good? Well, that's what I'm about to get into talking about. This is going to be my comprehensive review of Fear the Walking Dead Season 6. Let's just get into it. I wrote out this entire introductory statement, but the rest of this review is not going to be super scripted or anything, and I'm only going to be using a few notes to keep me on track for this review. And as always, there will of course be major spoilers ahead for Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead, so please watch out for that. Let's go. Just gotta see if this is recording. Alright. So, let's talk first about the direction of Season 6. Oh my god, it is so much better than Seasons 4 and 5. Just the mere fact that this season has actual fucking color, rather than the dull, shitty, gray filter film Seasons 4 and 5 were shot on, makes it infinitely better than those seasons. I mean, what the fuck was up with that filter in the first place? I don't even understand why that decision was made. Like, the first 3 seasons of Fear the Walking Dead looked pretty good, color-wise, but then, like, in Season 4, they just drained all the fucking color out. It was just so incredibly painful to look at. It was just, nothing about the screen actually looked interesting. And I don't even get it because, like, in all the flashbacks that were shown in shown in the first half of Season 4, like, they had actual color, but then the actual show outside of that didn't. And I don't even understand that because it doesn't even really make sense within the context of how, different filters have been used in this franchise in the past. Like, remember in Season 6, the premiere for that season, the flashbacks in that episode, the premiere, they were all shown in black and white. But now this time, it's the flashbacks that have actual color, and it's the show that doesn't have actual fucking color. Like, why? But anyway, finally fucking color, something for my eyes to actually, be pleased by seeing. So that was a great addition, and it's so weird because, like, the seasons 4 and 5 weren't even, like, black and white. They were just extremely dull looking, but anyway, there's finally fucking color, which is an enormous improvement for the series, and, overall, the direction was just much better in this season. It had actual dynamic shots that were really cool. Like, one thing that sticks out to me is episode 11, where that episode just had a bunch of beautiful shots that were just real eye candy. Like, this season just looked so much fucking better than seasons 4 and 5 did. That just looked so fucking shitty. Like, it's a canyon in terms of difference in quality between the last 2 seasons and this one. It just looks so much better. The direction was like, I don't know who, I don't really look at the credits, I don't know who was in charge of directing this season, but, good job on you, because it looked very good. Anyway, let's talk about the dialogue. The dialogue in seasons 4 and 5 was some of the cringiest shit that I'd ever heard. I mean, all anybody could fucking talk about was how they had to help people and make up for their past and blah, 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 blah. Like, seriously, some of the cringiest lines in screenwriting history were in seasons 4 and 5. It was just, everything about the way characters talked was, like, so unnatural, and, like, my ears were just bleeding trying to listen to it. And the dialogue, it was just so monotone throughout the entire thing, because you could tell the actors just, they weren't really, trying that hard, because the dialogue was just so shitty in the first place. Like, for example, like, one of the things, to give an example of what I'm talking about, like, in season 5, the character Sarah was, she was actually talking about how stealing a guy's truck was going to stay with her for the rest of her life. That shit stays with you for the rest of your life. Like, that's what she was saying. And that's an example of the dialogue being so incredibly unnatural, because, like, it's the fucking apocalypse. Like, you stealing a dude's truck, compared to some of the things that the other characters did, that's just gonna haunt me for the rest of my life, that I stole this dude's truck. Like, seriously? And that's because the entire dialogue, especially in season 5, was just like everybody talking about how, oh, peace, love, not war. Like everyone was just droning on the exact same fucking thing that Morgan was preaching out, and it was just like none of it was interesting because it was just the same fucking thing every episode. Oh my gosh, the dialogue in seasons 4 and 5 was so fucking terrible. Jeez. But the dialogue in season 6 has gained some noticeable improvements in this season, even though there were still some pretty cringy lines. Like the dialogue between characters, a lot of it seemed, more natural. Like these characters are actually, interacting with each other. Like it seemed like, it was definitely more interesting to listen to. Like there were scenes between characters, like between, for example, Al and Dwight in episode 3. I thought a lot of their conversations flowed pretty naturally, and just great dialogue between the two of them in that episode, where it really was showing their bond. Like in episode 8, Morgan's conversation with John, that was other bits of great dialogue. It was just a lot better in the season, felt more natural, flowed better, actually seemed like something the characters would say in reaction to their situation rather than just the same fucking preachy dialogue out of every single character's mouth. I actually think it's pretty ironic how in episode 3, there was that line from Al where she saw the whole, and just the beginning shit, and she said, "World goes to shit, everybody's a philosopher." Like, kind of, in my view, that was kind of the creators of this season, like, going back and making fun of the dialogue from the last 2 seasons, saying, sort of lampshading, saying, oh, wow, the dialogue from the last 2 seasons was, like, a bunch of shitty philosophy nonsense. Like, overall, yeah, the dialogue was definitely much better in this season, but, there were still some cringy stuff, especially in the finale, I would say, like, where, for example, some of Strand's lines in that finale, I don't know, I guess he does have a flair for the theatrics, but his whole monologue spiel to that guy who, like, he knew for maybe, like, an hour felt really out of place and unnatural. Like, other stuff like that, it's just... but yeah, overall, dialogue much better in season 6 than in the previous 2 seasons, and, overall, just a massive improvement. Anyway, so, let's get on to talking about the gore. Seasons 4 and 5 felt incredibly tame in terms of violent themes. At times, I thought I was watching a Saturday morning cartoon rather than a show set in the Walking Dead universe. Like, seriously, like, the first half of season 4 actually had some pretty gritty scenes. Like, for example, Nick's death was just, and him, like, killing that guy beforehand, who was one of the vultures, and, like, that, the first half of season 4 actually had some pretty disturbing scenes. But then, from there, it was just, after you kill off the 2 main characters in the previous season, we've done what we needed to do. We got rid of the old cast, now we're in with the new, and we don't have to have any character die now. And, like, just all of the characters having so much fucking plot armor, and, like, characters who we don't care about, like the fucking beer guy, and Tom dying because he was a stupid fucking vlogger. But we don't care about them, and, like, all the characters having plot armor and somehow surviving everything. But yeah, and barely any gore as well. Like, it was really tame for seasons 4 and 5. But, season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead was definitely a lot darker and more gory than previous seasons, which I definitely enjoyed. I mean, there's some legitimately really fucked up things, that happens in season 6, and characters actually die in ways that are brutal and shocking rather than laughable. I mean, like, in the first episode, there's people's heads getting chopped off, and not off screen, too. It actually shows it, and, like, in episode 4, a woman gets eaten alive, and Morgan, like, slashes someone's guts open, and their intestines start falling out. Like, in the finale, a woman stabs herself to death. Like, there's a lot of fucked up shit that happens in this season, and I definitely enjoyed it. It felt like it was actually returning to form and being, a dark series about death and brutality and stuff, rather than the fucking charity show that was in the seasons 4 and 5. But in addition to that, like, in addition to actual gore and death, there were also just a lot more, like, darker scenes, like, where there's just more scenes of tension and suspense. Like, for example, in episode 2, in the warehouse where everyone was trying to clear out those walkers, and like in episode 15 in the submarine, though, there were just, even disregarding the death, there were just scenes where people weren't necessarily dying, but it was just very tense, and you were wondering what would happen. And I actually felt, fear for the characters in a show that's called Fear the Walking Dead, which I don't think I ever felt once in season 5. Like, the show in season 5, in season 4 as well, but especially in season 5, just felt so utterly tensionless, because the gang had basically become, superheroes, traveling around, like, helping everyone, and there was just no tension because nobody died, and I didn't think anyone was going to die, and I didn't even really care if anyone was going to die because they were so fucking annoying. But, like, in this season, there are actually times where, it feels like, there's actual tension, and I was afraid for the character's safety. Like, especially in, like, season 15, where, they were trying to, stop the missiles from launching. That just got me really scared for the characters' lives, especially since it was so dangerous down there. So yeah, good on this season for actually, living up to the fear in the title, unlike seasons 4 and 5 did. But anyway, let's talk about the main antagonist of the season, at least for the first 9 episodes anyway. Yeah, Ginny is basically just discount Negan, but she's way less threatening or interesting. Ginny, I honestly didn't really care for her that much in this season. Like, the thing about Ginny is that, like I said before, she's very similar to Negan's character. Like, she's someone who, she's trying to build this civilization. She's trying to build the future. She goes on about the future and about people contributing, and she spares people's lives, of course, because she wants them to work for her. So it's very similar to what Negan was trying to do, but she's just not as interesting or as threatening as Negan was. Like, Negan had such an incredible presence on this, whenever he was on screen, but Virginia just didn't have that. Like, whenever Negan showed up, and he was around other characters, like, I was just so terrified that he was actually going to, like, kill someone whenever he was on screen in season 7, which, and the reason for that was because he had one hell of an incredible introduction, where, he basically just bashed the heads in, right in front of everyone, of the two of the most likable characters in the show, which really just, built up his fear factor, and that he was someone who you absolutely did not want to fuck with. And he seems so incredibly unstoppable, but Ginny just didn't feel like that way. Like, when she was introduced in season 5, she was just not very threatening at all, and she kept fucking letting all of the characters, like, go and not killing any of them. And then she finally did try to kill Morgan. I mean, here's the other thing. Morgan is basically the de facto main character of this season so far, of this series by now. Morgan has become the main character of Fear the Walking Dead. Wouldn't it have been amazing and a great introduction to Ginny if, rather than her just failing to kill Morgan and basically leaving him for dead with him smacking the gun out of her hand, if she had actually killed Morgan, that would have set her up as an incredibly threatening protagonist who, was someone who could just kill any of the protagonists at any moment. But that doesn't happen. She doesn't kill anyone. Like, her first showings are not very impressive, and she just, the main problem is that she is sort of interesting, even if she is sort of a copy of a much better villain in Negan. But her whole setting up of her civilization and communities, it could be interesting, except for the fact that she's not really that threatening. I mean, like, she does do a few things, like she kills that woman in episode 4 of the season by having her be eaten alive, which was pretty fucked up. But I mean, I didn't really care about that woman that much. I mean, I can't even remember her name even, and it's just like the entire time she was on screen, I get they were trying to make her feel really threatening, but she just wasn't. She just kept losing throughout the she just, like, kept losing throughout the entire season, with her, getting her hand cut off, having the oil rig blown up, all of her rangers getting killed, like, and then her just keep losing everything and never actually having a victory, like, and that's, but you need to have that. You need to have moments like, with what Negan had, where the villain is actually winning, and it feels like it's going to be a really difficult job to stop them. But I never felt that, because, like, she was basically a throwaway villain who was defeated incredibly easy in episode 9. And, I never really felt for her character. I never felt she was particularly threatening. And I don't know, I didn't really care about her that much. I didn't really feel like she was particularly threatening. They didn't really do anything interesting with the arc of taking her down. Like, for fuck's sake, we had to take an entire 2.5 seasons to take down Negan in The Walking Dead, and this girl, she basically gets beaten in what isn't even a whole season. So yeah, and honestly, like, her motivation that is revealed or her secret, I guess, that's revealed in episode 9 with, oh, my sister isn't actually my sister, she's my daughter. Wow, what a twist. I mean, like, I didn't expect it, but, why the fuck would I care? Like, okay, so she went from being someone you have a familiar connection with, that you care about and want to protect, to being someone that you have a familiar connection with that you want to protect. That reveal changed fucking nothing, because, it's still the same motivation, that you wanting to protect someone in your family. So oh my gosh, I don't get why that was treated as, like, oh, this big reveal that, Dakota was actually her daughter this entire time. Like, why the fuck would I care that much? Like, it just, I don't know. She had potential. Ginny did have potential, and I didn't think she was terrible, but I just didn't find her that interesting. Like, her in the end, her motivation to protect her daughter that she was trying to make her think was actually her sister didn't register for me. I didn't really care that much, and it didn't really change anything about her character or her motivations. She just ended up dying in the end, and honestly, just really a big throwaway character that I didn't really like. And, obviously, like I said before, a copy of a much better villain in the main Walking Dead series of Negan. So yeah, I honestly didn't really care for Ginny all that much this season. Found her to be a very underwhelming villain. But anyway, let's get to talking about our other main protagonist for this season, Teddy. Teddy is certainly a much better villain than Virginia was, despite him having less screen time. He's just a very unique presence, like, wildly contrasting Virginia, who's just sort of a worse version of a villain from The Walking Dead. Like, he's weird. Like, this guy is, like, he used to be a mortician who's obsessed with, like, bodies and death, and he has this weird cult forming around him of, like, doomsday people, and I just found his character and his presence on the screen so incredibly interesting. Like, he had a backstory which was really interesting, like him being this guy who was on death row, for his crimes, but then escaped because the apocalypse started, and he took it as this sign that, he was right all along, and the end is the beginning, and he formed this sort of cult around him, and it was just really interesting to see that, because, he's a character we haven't seen before we really haven't seen someone like this in The Walking Dead or in Fear the Walking Dead, and he was just so interesting throughout, and I really loved the actor and the way he portrayed him, and, like, the way he talks, the way he speaks. It all seems like really, really strange, but also very calculated in a way. Like, he's losing his mind, but he's also saying the things he does with intentionality. Like, probably one of the best aspects of this new season was Teddy. He's just such an incredibly interesting villain, and unlike Virginia, he does end up dying in the end, but unlike Virginia, he actually does do quite a bit of terrible things, and that, his plan, very interesting plan that we haven't seen in The Walking Dead by this point, which is to, activate this nuclear missile to basically blow the world up, or at least the area where he is from, to, destroy the world, destroy the things he doesn't like, to start anew. And that was just, I don't know, I guess it is sort of a cliche motivation, but it's a motivation we haven't seen before in Fear the Walking Dead or The Walking Dead. I found him incredibly interesting. I found him, obviously he was very important and had a lot of long-lasting repercussions. And I just really liked Teddy in this season. He was a very interesting character and one of my favorite additions. Even though I know since he's dead now, he won't be in the next season, but really liked him for sure. All right, now now that we've gotten the villains out of the way, let us talk about some main protagonists. Now, Morgan Jones is certainly a character who's been all over the fucking map throughout his time on The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. Originally Morgan was just this guy who saved Rick, and then Rick came back to see him, and he went all crazy, and he was, basically strangling people to death with his bare hands, like, just really losing his mind. Then he went through that whole thing of, him becoming a pacifist, and then and not wanting to kill, and then just going to someone who was like going murder, kill all day long, like trying to clear out everything during the war arc against the Saviors in The Walking Dead Season 8. And then, I thought, I was a bit excited to see what they would do with Morgan's character in Fear the Walking Dead, because, I did find his character to be pretty good in The Walking Dead. I know a bunch of people didn't really like him, but I did. Morgan was one of my favorite characters in the original Walking Dead, and I was, a spin-off show with Morgan. I mean, I know it's not going to be Fear the Walking Dead, but at least it could be interesting. But they just did, nothing with his character in Seasons 4 and 5. His character just did not change. He was not dynamic. They cut out all the, conflict over him deciding, okay, what should I do? What's my new philosophy? Should I kill or should I not? What are the situations where I should? Basically after Jesus told him in the finale of Walking Dead Season 8 that, maybe you should not kill, he just, he decides to not to, apparently now, and he's just, totally against killing now, just very, very strange to me. Again, Morgan's character, it seems like, and again, this sort of was a problem that I had with him in the original Season 2, but he just went from someone who was like, oh, I'm a pacifist all the time, and then, no, I'm killing people all the time, and then now in Fear the Walking Dead, it's just, again, completely changing on the drop of a hat, him going back to, oh, no, I'm just not gonna kill anyone anymore, ever, even, this woman who basically tried to kill me and everyone, and is also bitten. He couldn't, it's so fucking stupid, because, in the finale of Season 4, he wouldn't even bring himself to kill a woman who was already bitten and was already gonna die, and killing her would be an act of mercy. It's just so ridiculous how, over the course of the entire Season 4, Morgan never really grappled with that aspect of himself as a killer, and just spent the entire season completely convinced that, he was just going to be Mr. Pacifist again and never kill anyone. And then he went through the entirety of Season 5 like that, and it got so bland, because Morgan's character never changed and developed. It just stayed the entire bland thing the entire way through, and all the characters just, for some reason, got around to completely being on board with his ideals. For fuck's sake, no one, past Season 4 actually argued with Morgan and said, hey, maybe this isn't the way we should do this. Conflict, the thing, shows, good shows that are worth watching are actually based around. It was just, it was so fucking stupid, and his character was never interesting, because, one of the really interesting things of watching him in The Walking Dead was just thinking, okay, when is this guy gonna snap? When is this guy gonna do something horrible? Because we know this guy's mentally unstable, and, his pacifist ideology was the thing holding him together the entire time, and that was just really an interesting aspect of watching his character just going crazy. But he never goes fucking crazy in the series, and that just made it less interesting. I mean, the more crazy Morgan gets, the more interesting he is. And, honestly, Morgan's character was significantly improved in this season compared to the previous 2 seasons, but there were still things that really bothered me about him. But let's get to what is a great pickup from this season compared to the previous 2 seasons, which is that Morgan is actually having to grapple with him killing and whether he wants to kill people or not. In the premiere of this season, he does chop that dude's head off, even though he tried to spare him initially. So it is great that Morgan is, actually learning his lessons and, realizing that, okay, I have to kill some people to make it through. And it was interesting seeing that side of him again, badass Morgan, the one back from The Walking Dead, who was just, like, mowing down a bunch of guys, and I did like the fact that, Morgan was, not just going back to, oh, I'm going crazy, kill everyone. It was more of a balance in between, which was, something that was good for him and was actual fucking development after, like, 2 seasons of him just going off the rails and never changing. And, like, so I did definitely like that aspect about him, and I felt that he was a lot more interesting this season, and I also liked the fact that, unlike how in Season 5, everything, like, everybody would fucking talk about is how, oh, he's just a tragic character because he's lost his family, and, like, oh, it, like, what I don't even understand about Season 5 is just, like, that Season 5 constantly kept going on reminding us about how Morgan lost his family, when, like, every single fucking character in the show has lost their family. Like, he is not the only one. He is not special in that way. But, like, I like that, this season pretty much entirely dropped that and just, had it focusing on what was going on with Morgan and, what he was trying to do in the here and now. But the things that bothered me about Morgan's character was, like, for some reason, like, he goes through this whole journey of, like, thinking, oh, I don't want to kill, and I won't if I don't have to. But, I'm going to do it when it's necessary. And then, like, he doesn't kill people when it seems pretty necessary. And this happens in, like, the back half of the season, which really annoyed me. Like, I don't really care. I don't really care that much about, his decision to spare Virginia's life. I know a lot of people got pissed off about that, saying, oh, no, kill her. Like, I don't know. I feel like he was trying to do the same thing that Rick did with Negan, basically saying, this is an example of what our civilization would be. And I like that character decision from Rick in that series, and I don't really have a problem with Morgan taking it over to this series, because, Virginia wasn't really much of a threat anymore. But what did bother me about it was, like, in episode 12, Rick lets Riley go, that guy who's working for Teddy. He just lets Riley go after he's injured, lets him go, and doesn't kill him, and then he comes back and threatens him and Grace with a gun, and then, he gets the weapon to, launch the nuclear missile, which is definitely going to kill a lot of people, and then, like, so he lets someone go, for no fucking reason, who is incredibly dangerous, and then, like, in episode 15 of the season, he just lets Riley go again with Teddy. Like, why? Why the fuck would he do something like that? It made no sense. He should have just killed them there, or at least, like, actually capture them to try to get information out of them. But, like, no, he just let them go. Like, they can still come back and harm more people afterwards. You realize that, Morgan, you fucking dumbass. Like, things like that, where he just does things that don't make any fucking sense, really brought his character down for me. And I know they're nitpicks, because, like, overall his character was much better this season, and he had much more, natural dialogue. I found him much more likable. I found, the friendship he shared with, everyone to be more realistic in my opinion this season. But, stuff like that, little things that Morgan does in the season that don't make any fucking sense, especially in the back half of the season, they just annoy me. Like, it just got on my nerves. So his character is still, sort of, not quite out of the doghouse for me, because I still take some major issues, but overall, a great improvement over the last 2 seasons. Overall, let's get to talking about Alicia, who by this point, I guess, is the de facto second main character outside of Morgan. I honestly think her character was greatly improved with this season compared to the last season, where, rather than killing Walker, she was fucking painting trees or whatever the fuck. Like, oh my gosh, Alicia was so fucking boring in the last season. It was so fucking bad. But yeah, I found her character much more interesting in this season. She just seems like sort of a return to classic Alicia, where she's just like this sort of more stoic, badass character who, she was getting a lot of shit done. Like, her showings in this season, like, for example, in episode 11, where she was, like, killing, where she was, like, or, I don't know, was it episode 11, or another episode where, like, she was, killing people in really violent ways, like injecting one person with that solution of formaldehyde. Like, how in episode 7 of the season, one thing I really appreciate was that after she got captured by that crazy guy in the cabin, she was basically she wasn't wasting any time. She was getting out of there, getting out of her restraints immediately and taking charge and being constantly suspicious of him. She was just much more of a proactive character this season that I really liked. And of course, episode 14, where she got a really great showing, where she was just like fucking done with Teddy's shit the entire time. And I found her character much more interesting and much more engaging to watch this time around. And I honestly really enjoyed her. I don't have too many complaints. I really liked her character this season. Felt like a return to classic Alicia from season 3, maybe even more interesting since she's been given more focus. So honestly, yeah, Alicia, really liked what they did with her character this season compared to the previous two. So anyway, I don't understand why this work slides. Please don't do that anymore. You know what I'm talking about if you're watching this. But hey, listen to it either way. Anyway, so let's get to some more characters. Let's talk about the swindler himself, Victor Strand. I will say this, I certainly found his character more interesting than in the last 2 seasons. I mean, in the last 2 seasons, he basically got infected with Morgan syndrome, where he was just acting more happy and more optimistic all the time and actually doing good things and not bad things. What made Strand so incredibly interesting in the first 2 seasons, and especially season 3, was just, he was just this character who was very mysterious, and you didn't know what he was going to do. He was extremely morally gray. He really only seemed to be focused on himself. And, was he going to betray people? Was he actually going to do good things? Did he actually mean it when he said he cared about them? He was just such an incredibly dynamic and compelling character. And, you just didn't know what was going to happen with him. And it kept you in suspense because you didn't know, was he going to betray the group? Was he going to side with the villains to save his own skin? His character was really interesting in that way in season 3, and I love that he does have sort of a return to form in this season with us, the audience, constantly questioning, is he really loyal to the group? Is he really trying to gain Virginia's trust to betray her, or is he trying to look out to save his own skin, or is it both? And that scene in episode 2 especially, where he killed that guy in order sacrificed him in order to draw the walkers away, that was pretty surprising and pretty fucked up, and I really enjoyed it. And how he throughout the season, how he constantly kept lying, and how he said that he sacrificed himself so that we could live, and how in the end of the how in the finale of the season he starts talking about himself I'm Morgan Jones, I was the one who was trying to save everyone. Him, just constantly compulsively lying and trying to cover his own ass. And I enjoyed that aspect of him. I definitely did. I found it more compelling to watch, certainly, than whatever the fuck was happening in seasons 4 and 5. But I do sort of have a problem with Strand in that I don't feel like his character is his character kind of just keeps going around in circles and doesn't develop any consistent motivations to have. I don't know. I don't know. I don't find Strand's character as interesting as he used to be, because it feels like he's just going around in circles and not really not really changing a whole lot. And it was certainly interesting to see, but it's just something we've sort of seen before. And I wish that his character could actually go through some actual developments, that rather than I don't know. It just I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying, but I don't know. It's just something about his character. I wish his character would actually go through some developments and change in some way. He can still be a lying piece of shit, but I just feel I wish they would have focused on his character and actually developing it more and gave him more interesting, varied stuff to do with him that we haven't seen before. But whatever. Still, absolutely an improvement to seasons 4 and 5 Strand. What the fuck? And yeah, enjoyed his character definitely a lot more, though still some issues with him. Overall, yes, now we have to talk about who was probably my favorite character, if it wasn't Nick, in the first 3 seasons of Fear the Walking Dead, before the writers transformed him into a chill cat coddler in season 5. Daniel Salazar. Did this season do him justice? Well, let's see. So Daniel Salazar, from the first 2 seasons of Fear the Walking Dead, and especially the 3rd season, he was just this character who was so incredibly cool and badass, because he was just this person who was trained by the CIA and could do all this cool fucking shit, and someone who was incredibly dangerous, and also someone incredibly violent, who had come from this brutal world, and you saw him do all this horrible shit, especially throughout season 3, and he was just so incredibly interesting. But then, of course, when they introduced him in season 5, he's just there and doesn't actually do anything like that, and he's just, this cat coddler who makes this friendship with Charlie or whatever the fuck. And but in this season, he was actually somewhat more interesting. Like, for example, I was so fucking scared in the first half of the season how they were doing that whole thing with, he lost his memory, and I just was so hoping that he would actually end up being lying and trying to trick Virginia, and it turned out that he actually was, which I really enjoyed. But my problem with Daniel in the first half of the season was that he just doesn't really do anything. Like, he was revealed to, be working with Morgan and, trying to help him take down Virginia. But we never saw any of that. We never saw any of his character actually doing that. It happened entirely off screen. I would have really liked to see him actually maneuvering around, Ginny's settlements and trying to get stuff done and secretly meet with Morgan, but we never saw any of that, and he didn't do anything. And, like, when Ginny actually gets defeated, like, Daniel just acts like a total fucking damsel in distress, getting hit on the head by her and, like, injured and doing fucking nothing, which was just incredibly disappointing and underwhelming for his character. He was so badass in the first 3 seasons. And then, like, but he did get some moments to shine. Like, in episode 10 of the season, in episode 10 of the season, even though I have some problems with that episode that I'll get to, I actually did find his character pretty compelling there, and I did like it how, his relationship with Strand, which was incredibly tenuous in seasons 2 and 3, to be sure, they actually brought that back with him even threatening to fucking kill Strand, which was just a really terrifying, intense scene to watch, I really like the fact that they were also bringing back the fact that, he went kind of a little crazy in season 2, and, they're bringing that back here with him sort of, being confused and not quite being in his right mind, which I really enjoyed. And overall, I felt that he was more compelling in this season, definitely. And of course, he also had that really cool moment in the finale where, he figured out that those guys that were with him, they were working for Teddy, and then he just immediately shot one of them, which was just a really great moment for him. So he did have some good moments in this season, but there just weren't enough, and he didn't really do all that much, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things. So his character was definitely underutilized, but I found it to be much better than it was in season 5. So yeah, Daniel Salazar, they sort of did him justice in this season, but not entirely. But anyway, what about our resident child psychopath, Charlie? I mean Dakota. No, for real though, I actually don't think Charlie's as bad as some people think she is, but whatever. So what did I think of Dakota exactly? A lot of people were surprised at the reveal that she was a murdering psychopath, but honestly, I suspected her from the very beginning. Like, there was just something about the way she was talking, like, and how she was constantly obsessed with killing her sister, that I knew something was up. Like, I knew something was up with this girl, like, from the moment she was introduced. Well, not quite from the moment she was introduced. I knew that, like, she couldn't be, like, this just goody two-shoes character who was just too pure, and I knew there had to be something up with her. And, of course, she did turn out to be a complete fucking psychopath, because she killed John, and also that, also Cameron, whose name I actually do remember, and also Cameron as well, and also, she ended up siding with Teddy in the end, which was a very interesting development. And her character, I mean, like, I didn't find her character really that interesting when she was introduced. I actually found her character definitely not more likable, but more interesting when she was revealed to be, this child psychopath who was just killing people who she didn't like and got in her way. And that was a very interesting development. And I did actually I was so scared that they were going to try to make her like Charlie was, where basically, they were going to try to rehabilitate her and have her be part of the group. But luckily, she did go down more of the Troy route. He was one of the more interesting characters from season 3, where, she still ended up, even though they allowed her to stay with the group, she ended up being this, fucking psychopath who betrayed them, basically sided with Teddy and did a bunch of horrible things and tried to kill Strand and all this shit, and I like that about her, but I just have to ask, like, why did they not lock this bitch up after she killed John? Like, she killed Morgan's best friend, and they didn't think to lock her up, just letting her stay in the quarry and be around everyone else and not be locked up? Like, having her walking around, like, she basically went over to join Teddy's group all by herself, and, like, no one thought to watch her, no one thought that, hey, this bitch who killed one of our friends, and also other people too, in the past, could be dangerous. Like, what the fuck, why would you do that? Like, oh my gosh, you were locking Ginny up, like, you were locking Virginia up, why wouldn't you lock her daughter up as well? Like, this bitch is dangerous, like, she's unstable, why would you just let her roam freely? It made no fucking sense. But overall, even though, yeah, that made no fucking sense whatsoever, I still did enjoy her character, like, maybe not enjoy is the right word, but I did find her interesting and engaging to watch, at the very least, but, yeah, that's what I thought of Dakota. Honestly, a more interesting villain who actually did villainous things than her sister was, which is very ironic, but, anyway, let's get to our, stop doing that, jeez, aromantic shipper slides, stop doing that. Whatever. Anyway, let's talk about our boy Dwight in this season. How did his character bear out? I honestly found his character to take a really, really weird and uninteresting turn in Season 5. You know, he was another character like Daniel who, oh, he's here now, and he showed up, and, like, but he's really boring and uninteresting. Like, you know, Dwight was actually one of my favorite characters from The Walking Dead, the original Walking Dead, with how, you know, he was this double agent who was, you know, siding with, trying to make it look like he was siding with Negan and doing all these really horrible things to try to make it so that his cover wasn't blown. And I just found him, that aspect of his character, you know, trying to do all these horrible things in order to finally get the better of Negan, really interesting. But, of course, in Season 5, he was really uninteresting, where his entire story basically just became about, you know, finding his wife and him completely, you know, taking after Morgan's philosophy of not killing anyone, and, you know, it just, I didn't like what they did with his character in Season 5, because they didn't really do anything with his character, and he was really uninteresting. But in this season, it was nice to, you know, it was nice to see him returning back to form, at least in some ways, with him, you know, torturing, or at least threatening to torture that guy, with having him being eaten by a dog in episode 6. That was really interesting. It was nice to see him sort of returning to how he was, you know, that character who was, you know, he would do what he needed to do, he would do all these horrible things to try to gain victory, and so I liked him, and I liked him in episode 6 for sure, but honestly, after that, he just wasn't as interesting of a character, in my opinion. Like, he kept fucking simping over his wife, Sherry, who, by the way, she's in this season now, you know. Apparently she made it all the way to fucking Texas, you know, of course, because, you know, everyone from The Walking Dead just apparently winds up in Texas now. It's just, why? But anyway, yeah, Sherry's here now, and basically, after episode 6, when, you know, Sherry breaks up with him, Dwight basically just spent the entire fucking season, the rest of the season, simping over her and trying to, you know, say, oh, come back to me, because it wasn't interesting to me, at all, and, like, you know, he could have been a much more interesting character in showcasing how he was fighting against the Rangers and Virginia, but, like, they didn't really do anything that interesting with his character, other than simping over his wife/ex-wife, other than in season 6. So he was definitely more interesting, more likable, more engaging than he was. I also liked his character interactions with Al in episode 3, of course, but, like, definitely more interesting, more engaging than before, but overall just not very well utilized in this season, in my opinion. So, yeah, also Sherry is, yeah, like I said, Sherry is in this season now, and she's a fucking bitch, and I really don't like her. Like, you know, like, Sherry was an incredibly confusing character, and her motivations in this season, like, I get it, like, oh, she was just, like, she didn't want her husband to become the person that he was before, but then she was becoming a more hardened character who was, like, you know, trying to win at any cost, and it was just very confusing how, like, she was against what Dwight was doing, but then she was trying to do the same thing, and then, like, even after Ginny was dead, she was still obsessed with vengeance for some reason. She was gonna try to go back all the way to fucking Virginia to kill Negan. Like, why? What the fuck is... And she was just acting like a complete asshole to her husband throughout the entire season, and it was just, like, it really got on my nerves. Her character really got on my nerves. I did not like her. I did not like the direction, Sherry's character went in this season, at all, I would say. I didn't find her particularly interesting or likable, and just not a great addition, in my opinion. But yeah, that's what I thought of Dwight and Sherry. Now let's talk about a character. Now let's talk about June. I honestly liked June's character a lot more in this season than in previous ones. Like, you know, she was kind of okay for me in seasons 4 and 5. Like, just another character introduced that was just kind of okay. Just like all the rest, who were just, you know, and I did like how... I mean, I honestly did think that she was, June's character, even though she wasn't, like, amazing or anything, she was one of the highlights of this season, in my opinion. She really just became much more proactive and stronger and motivated in what she wanted to do. Like, for example, in episode 6, you know, she was intent on, like, staying and helping people, like, rather than running away like she used to. And she was saying, like, she had a bunch of badass moments, like, where threatening and trying to extort Virginia, and basically, you know, cutting off her hand, and saving her, in order to get her to do what she wanted, and, like, you know, obviously killing, Virginia in the end, which was a very interesting turn for her character, you know, getting revenge for what happened to John, and, her interactions with, her interactions with John Sr. Overall, I just found June very likable in this season, and I liked the more focus that she was getting in her character. So, yeah, I think June was definitely more interesting in this season than in previous seasons, and I actually liked her character a lot. So, congrats on the actress who played her. Of course, I don't know her name, but she did very well as well. So, yeah, like June in this season. I'd say she's one of the standouts. And then there's John Dory, who gave this season probably the saddest death in this series since Nick in season 4, with him, much like Nick, being murdered by a child. I did like John in this season. I mean, John, honestly, he was probably one of the, if not the most likable new characters introduced in the soft reboot of the series in seasons 4 and 5. I did like his character when it was initially introduced and found him pretty likable. You know, pretty likable. But I did, you know, he was kind of boring. He was a little bit boring, especially by the time season 5 rolled around. You know, with season 5 of the series probably being the worst in the series. But, you know, I did find him likable in the series. In this season. You know, he was just very, like before, a very likable and genuine character who was trying to do all this good. You know, episode 4, his whole conflict with wanting to do the right thing in this new community and trying to not have anybody die. That was just really a really engaging thing. But, you know, I did like his character in this season, and he had a bunch of great moments. Like, for example, his heart-to-heart with Morgan in episode 8 before he ended up dying, and his death scene, of course, was also incredibly sad. But there were just some things that also kind of bothered me about his character. Like, it just seems so weird to me that after being reunited with his wife, he would just, you know, then just immediately leave her, but to basically, like, I just feel like someone who he cared about so much and then, you know, got married to in the finale of last season, like, you know, someone he obviously cared about so much, like June, he just packed up and left her. Like, you know, I understand he wanted to escape Virginia, but, like, what would have been more consistent with his character was him saying, you know, okay, I want to leave, but, you know, I love you, so I'm going to stay with you if you want to stay. But no, he just left and went to basically try to kill himself, which just felt very out of character for him, you know, even if obviously he was depressed at all that was happening. You know, his decision to leave June behind felt very, very strange to me, and I just didn't really understand it. It seemed out of character, which I didn't like, and him being fucking depressed for the last episode of for episode 8 of the season just felt really weird and not really that pleasant to watch. And, you know, so definitely some problems with his character and the way it was handled, and I did. His death, it was very shocking. It was very sad, and I did like that. This season is actually killing off characters now, unlike in season 5, where basically nobody who was important actually died. But his death was very tragic and sad, and it was sad to see him go. And overall, even though I did have some issues with this character this season, it's still still a good character who, perhaps being sort of poorly written in parts, but still did enjoy him in this season. So now let's talk about some of the more minor characters introduced in this season. No, sorry, not introduced in this season, just in this season. So I'm just going to run through a list of them, the ones that I remember, talking a bit about each of them. Wes, he was honestly okay, and I found him pretty likable in this season. I honestly didn't give a fuck about him when he was introduced in season 5, but I honestly found Wes to be pretty likable in this season. Like, there were some parts where I was, fearing for his life. Like, for example, when Virginia was torturing him in episode 6. I found him to be, I actually found myself caring about him in that moment. And of course, in episode 11, where he goes back and meets his brother again, that was a really great development for him. And it just felt like his character was getting more focus and becoming more likable. And I just found him to be a really likable dude in this season. So yeah, I liked Wes in this season. Sarah is still a character that exists, I suppose. I honestly can't remember anything she actually did, and Wendell got even less focus. Actually, it seems like the show at times kind of forgot he existed. Like, where the fuck was Wendell for a lot of the scenes in the show? I don't know, but whatever. Sarah, she did have some good lines every now and then, but she didn't really do much, and Wendell, she was almost non-existent, but, whatever, I guess. And there was Charlie. Charlie was honestly fine. I know a lot of people hated her because she killed Nick, but I just don't. And I actually found Charlie to be actually pretty likable in this season, even though she had a relatively minor role. I liked her helping out with killing all those walkers in episode 2. Like, I liked in episode 7 how she was basically being very proactive and sneaking into the house trying to get Alicia out. She just did, and also shooting Riley in the finale of the season. I really liked her doing that, and I honestly found Charlie to be pretty likable in this season, and just very good character that wasn't focused on too much, but she didn't need to be, and I found her pretty likable. So honestly, Charlie, really liked her in this season, honestly. And then there's Grace, who still managed to be super fucking average to me. Like, I just don't really care that much about Grace. And I know there was like an entire episode focused on her, but I didn't really even like that episode. And I don't know, I don't really care that much about Grace. Like, I don't really find her that interesting. I don't really find her relationship with Morgan to be that developed or that built up. I don't even really think the two have that much chemistry between the two of them, and she didn't really do a ton in particular. Like, she didn't even appear until episode 7 of this season. I honestly, I didn't really care for that much. So that Rabbi Jacob, at least I think that's his name. I think that's what I remember his name being. He was honestly just super fucking boring to me. His character can't even hold a candle to Gabriel/Herschel and the development they got in The Walking Dead. He was boring and pointless when they first introduced him in season 5, and is boring and pointless now. Except for that conversation he had with John in episode 4. I actually kind of liked him there, but alright, John Dory Sr., introduced this season as the father of John, was a new addition that I honestly really liked. It's kind of stupid that he just so happened to run into June, another example of this show, of people really conveniently finding each other at the right times, but his character was still pretty fun to watch, and I didn't mind that much. His introduction, his history with the villain, he was someone who actually had history with him. I found that really interesting, and, it justified his being involved in the plot, and, maybe he could have done some more stuff in actually fighting Teddy, which we didn't get to see, and I think he could have played a bigger role after he was introduced, but I still did find his character pretty likable, and I liked his relationship with June that sort of developed, and him sort of coming to grips with how he left his family and all that stuff. So yeah, I liked John Dory Sr. in this season. And there was Luciana, who has honestly been sidelined since season 3 of this show, and that doesn't change very much here, as I honestly can't remember her character doing all that much or getting that much focus. Like, Luciana really needs more to do with her character. Honestly, I can't remember anyone else. I guess there was that girl who stabbed herself in the finale, and I honestly couldn't care less, don't even remember her name, and found her husband, who died after one episode in the premiere, to be a more engaging character. There was Teddy's right-hand man, Riley, and honestly, he was fine, I guess. I mean, honestly, I actually did, I don't know, Riley was fine, I guess. He was a good, okay number 2 to Teddy, I guess, I don't know, he was fine. And of course, who could forget our boy, Cole, the less memorable Morales of this show. Yeah, I didn't really care about either of him, or I really didn't care about Cole that much, or any of the people from the fucking stadium, and I would just prefer to forget any of that stuff ever happened. But yeah, those are all the characters I can remember at this point. Anyway, why don't we just talk about the show episode by episode now that we've got through all the characters. Alright, so Episode 1. Episode 1 was honestly fantastic, and one of my favorite in the whole series. And unfortunately, the best episode of this season, as the season would never quite reach the heights that it did in this episode. Seeing Morgan trying to desperately survive was really engaging, and, him it was a really interesting plot point with him, his wound being infected, and, him being immune to being discovered by the walkers because of that. And that was a very interesting plot point that made sense, to be honest. And that guy, like I said before, I really liked the husband of that girl who stabs herself, who, dies in this episode. I found him to be a very engaging character, really likable, and, him trying to get back to his wife before she gave birth, and, him trying to help Morgan even though he didn't have to. And, I really liked that guy, and I really liked his interactions with Morgan. Morgan finally deciding that he needed to kill again and chopping off the head of the bounty hunter. I overall just really liked this episode. It was very good, but there were just some things that bothered me about the episode. One thing in particular, which was, the bounty hunter who goes to get Morgan. I found his introduction scene really cool with how he just chops that guy's head off, but then he was just defeated way too easily, in my opinion. Morgan, who was basically dying, Morgan, who was just basically dying and decrepit, was able to defeat him first, and managed to get away, and then later defeat him again after sparing him the first time. And it's just, Morgan is this really decrepit guy who's incredibly injured from the bullet, and he's just able to defeat this super cool bounty hunter guy who's been cutting the heads off all these people. He just went down way too easily, in my opinion, and he could have, I don't know, he just went down way too easily, in my opinion, when they built him up as a really powerful, important guy. But yeah, that did bother me about the episode, but overall it was just pretty good. A very effective start to the season, and really a good way to for the writers to sort of say, okay, this season is going to be different. It's not like how seasons 4 and 5 were. It's going to actually have good writing and tense scenes and compelling characters, and overall just really like the premiere of this season. Very good. Then there was episode 2. This episode I also thought was pretty good. The whole situation of Strand and friends trying to clear out that warehouse full of walkers. It was a pretty interesting situation. And I liked the action scenes in it. They were pretty compelling and tension-filled. And I also loved Victor Strand in the episode, with him getting back to form, being his conniving self, and, killing that guy and lying about it in order to draw the walkers away. So I overall did like this episode. I found that some good character interaction as well. The first scene of this episode was honestly just straight out of a fucking horror movie. It was just incredibly disturbing, with everyone getting pulled under the door and being eaten alive by those walkers. That was really disturbing as shit, and I just really enjoyed it. So overall, I enjoyed this episode for more, seeing what was happening with the Gulch and everything. But one thing that just really did bother me about it was Virginia's plan, which honestly, in my opinion, was just kind of fucking stupid. Okay, you're sacrificing all these people, including your own rangers who also died, to clear out this warehouse that doesn't have anything of value in it, when you could have just, if you wanted to, machine gun down all the walkers. But you sacrificed all these people to, quote-unquote, build yourself an army with Strand at the helm, when, there could have been, a lot easier ways to actually test people for skilled soldiers. For fuck's sake, one of the people who she says is going to be the start of her army is Charlie, who's a fucking kid who is there. So, what? I did not her plan just didn't really make any sense. Like, there was no reason to sacrifice all these people, because, people should have been more valuable to you as, like, resources, like, just like a more intelligent person like Negan, who was actually making better use of people, would have just not sacrificed, like, so many people to clear out this fucking warehouse that was pointless in the first place. Like, it just, Virginia's plan of making this army, like, it just didn't really make any sense, especially since, like, if you're building an army, like, one would assume that you're building an army to also take down people, but they were just shown taking down walkers, which is a much more easier task, and doesn't necessarily translate over to taking down people threats. So her plan to build this army by testing people, it just didn't make any fucking sense and was a total waste. So I didn't really enjoy the ultimate reveal in the episode of her, it being a test all along, and, the real treasure was the walkers we killed along the way. Like, it didn't really make any fucking sense to me, and, of course, we saw how well that turned out with her army turning against her, but, anyway, didn't enjoy that twist in the episode, but, overall, still a pretty good episode with, some engaging, stuff in it. Episode 3. I also liked this episode quite a bit. I mean, it wasn't that great, but Dwight and Al did have some pretty great character interactions. I felt some pretty great music, pretty great shots in this episode. I found Dwight and Al's brother-sister relationship to be pretty believable, and I like their banter with one another. I like their... Again, it's a cool situation. They get themselves in trying to climb this building, and... these rats that are carrying the bubonic plague, which certainly made things pretty tense. I don't really... it was weird to me that, Al was just so intent on, like, basically leaving these people to die, which I thought her character would have been better than that. And it was just another thing that also weirded me out about Al's character was just, like, I don't understand why she is, like, obsessing over this woman who she knew for, like, a day, maybe, and trying so hard to get back to her. Like, especially since Dwight rightfully points out in this episode how, basically, the Civic Republic is a dangerous group, and this woman basically held a gun to her head, and was trying to kill her. So I don't, just, like, Al, what is with characters in the show fucking simping? Like, Dwight spent the entire season simping over this woman who kept telling him to leave her alone, and she was just being a complete bitch throughout the entire thing. And Al simping over this woman who was going to kill her. Like, it's just really weird how she was trying so hard to get back to this woman, who I don't remember her name. They keep referring to her as Beer Lady in this episode, which I don't know, whatever. But that was just weird to me how Al just kept trying to get back to this character who. I don't know, just really weird, and this episode wasn't as good as the previous two, but I still did enjoy it for the situation and the interactions between Dwight and Al. So overall, not a terrible episode, but not the greatest either. And now we get to episode 4, and when I first watched this episode, I honestly was not a fan of it. Like, I thought it was really boring, but I ended up watching it while I was, like... Sorry, so... Yeah, like I said before, when I first watched this episode, I just did not like it. I found it really boring, but I ended up watching it when I was, like, passed out because I was staying up so late at night. And, watching something for the first time while you are really tired can definitely affect a person's enjoyment of something. I remember watching the Lord of the Rings movies for the first time starting at midnight, and that was just a complete shit show train wreck. Like, not a good first viewing experience for me watching the Lord of the Rings movie. And, it wasn't a good viewing experience for me watching this episode the first time either, so I went back and rewatched this episode to make up for my horrid first experience, and I actually thought it was pretty good. There was a lot of tension in this episode that built off the fact that you didn't know what was going on. Like, sure, not a ton of action happened in it, and not a ton of story developments, but it was really engaging seeing John's character, like, kind of, trying to solve this murder that the audience doesn't know what actually happened. It isn't even revealed what happened by the end of it. It's just very engaging to try to figure out what's going on, and Virginia actually being surprisingly kind of threatening in this episode with her basically Like I said before, I didn't find Virginia's character very threatening, which I took an issue with. But there is an exception with that, as in this episode, I actually did find her to be pretty threatening. You know, how she left that woman outside to get eaten alive by walkers. Her, like, conversations with John, you know, me constantly being on the edge of my seat as to what would happen, and you know, her just like. For example, one of the things I mean is, like, her just casually mentioning to John how she's been reading all John's letters. Like, scenes like that were just very, very terrifying and made me really afraid for John and what might happen to him. So yeah, I honestly liked Virginia in this episode, in contrast to the rest of the season, where I didn't really find her character very interesting or threatening. But yeah, and John was incredibly engaging. I really found his character likable in this episode. His conversation that he has with the rabbi was about, you know, what happened with his dad, and that was pretty cool, and some pretty great foreshadowing as well for what would happen later in the season. So overall, I liked this episode quite a bit. I really thought it had a lot of tension and mystery, and you know, it dealt with the mystery subgenre, which you know, was really cool. So yeah, I actually liked this episode and think it's probably one of my favorites in the season. All right, just gotta take a drink. Sorry, just had getting thirsty. But anyway, let's talk about episode 5. This episode was good. I liked the hold on, wait. No, sorry. I think I might have been getting episode 5 confused with episode 6 when I was talking before. Whatever. I think I'm right. Episode 6. Stop brain work now. Episode 6 was good. I liked the whole situation of them trying to do I like the whole situation of them trying to, fight back against Virginia with Dwight and everyone meeting with those guys that Sherry was a part of, who were also trying to take down Virginia, and that whole horse chase scene was pretty cool, and it was really great to see Dwight being an actual, you know, interesting and morally gray character again, with him trying to do whatever he could to take down Virginia. And I also liked a lot of the callbacks they had back to The Walking Dead, with, you know, Morgan saying, you know, how I've lived through a war before that had too many casualties and took too long to make, with him arguing over what the best path would be. So overall, I did like this episode for sure, and found it to be pretty interesting and engaging. But again, like I said before, I just do not like Sherry very much, and found her to be not really very likable in this episode, and she becomes more unlikable later down the line. But overall, you know, this episode 5, was still good, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, good episode. Then we get to episode 6, and I actually like this episode a lot. I mean, you know, the episode basically focused more on June, and like I said before, I actually have been liking June's character quite a bit. Throughout this season, found her to be one of the standouts, and you know, I liked the beginning with her going around and trying to save people. And that was just really engaging. That walker turned extremely fast, though. I mean, that was just really weird. Remember how in season 1 of The Walking Dead, where the walkers took, like, hours to turn, like, you know, where's that happening in this series? Anyway, but, you know, regardless of nitpicks, I really liked the scenes that were at the oil field were actually really tension-filled, and I honestly really liked them, where, you know, everyone was, you know, it turned out... Honestly, I really liked it because, you know, this episode was showing more of the complexities of what was actually going on, and was showing that, you know, Virginia might not actually be the big bad, and there's that other group out there that she was trying to fight against, and that's what she was being so concerned about, which I felt was really interesting because it was at least something unique, because, you know, it's something that was different than what happened with Negan, because, you know, I've been calling Ginny sort of Negan knockoff, Negan ripoff, but I honestly, this is one of the few interesting things about her, was that, you know, instead of just fighting against the protagonist like Negan was, you know, Ginny was also trying to fight against this other really dangerous group, which I found pretty interesting. And you know, I found these scenes where, you know, everything was just going to shit with the oil fields and everything blowing up and a bunch of people dying, coming back with walkers. It was just really tension-filled and really exciting. One of the few really... Well, not one of the few, I guess, but one of the really exciting parts of the season where I was honestly really, invested in what was happening. And, Ginny's interactions with June I thought were really good, sort of humanizing Virginia more, and even if she's not a particularly threatening villain, I did think that she had some good dialogue with June in this episode. And I thought June being a badass, saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna save you unless you do what I want," and her basically chopping off, again, another thing that was interesting to me about this was that it was just really unexpected to see Virginia getting her hand chopped off and being in such a vulnerable situation in only episode 6. And again, like I said before, I don't really like Virginia's character, but it was still a big surprise to see her, being so completely vulnerable in this episode, which I did kind of enjoy in the moment, even though in the long run it did really do a detriment to her character, because she ultimately didn't really come out to be a very threatening villain. But overall, I really liked this episode. I really liked June's interactions. I liked her interactions with Ginny. I liked I liked a lot of this episode. It was very good, and I would definitely rewatch it again. Just a very engaging episode. Anyway, let's get on to episode 7. Now, I enjoyed the first 6 episodes of this season reasonably well, but I have to say I wasn't really the biggest fans of episode 7. I mean, it definitely had some good moments, like everyone being reunited by the end, and certainly had its creepy factor with some very disturbing moments. Also, some character interactions I liked. Like I said before, I liked I liked the stuff that Alicia was doing and how her character reacted to the situation, and I liked Charlie as well, as I was talking about before. But honestly, I didn't really find the guy at the cabin they meet to be very interesting. He was kind of confusing to me, to where he was running away from Virginia and trying to keep them safe, I guess, but then also leading a bunch of walkers to the house that ended up eating him, and it just got very confusing. I was just very confused by his character. You need to stop giving notifications. God damn it. Is that going to be the end of the notifications? For fuck's sake. Jeez. Anyway, disregard the fucking stupid notifications that I forgot to turn off for this video. And I really should have turned off my notifications for Slack, but whatever. Guess I'll just have to get through this because I can't edit. Anyway, I actually I didn't really like this episode a ton, but it was still interesting. It was still engaging. It wasn't terrible or anything, but just not. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, and anyway, but yeah, that was this episode, and let's just get on to episode 8 of the season, which, I thought this episode was honestly just kind of okay. I mean, I like the character interactions in the episode I like the character interactions that Morgan had with John, as I thought they had some really great dialogue between the two of them, where they really acted like friends, and there was a lot of heartbreaking dialogue from Morgan, where he was saying, you're my best friend, John, and you want me to leave, but I'm not going to, because you were, you saved me back when I first met you and came back for me with my broken leg, even though I told you not to, and now I'm doing the same thing for you. And him, calling Virginia to basically try to force him to come back, that was I just really liked the two of their interactions this episode, and I thought they were really engaging, and they felt honestly like genuine friends, and I really liked it. But this episode was sort of mixed in my opinion. I didn't really find their plan to clear the walkers off the road very interesting, and there were also, obviously John's in the end, him getting killed by Dakota was incredibly tragic, and his death was incredibly sad, and the saddest thing that's happened in the series thus far since Nick's death in season 4. But it just honestly bothered me how that whole thing was handled, even though it was very tragic. With it just really confused me, because Dakota was she was basically saying how I have to kill you so no one finds out what I did. But then immediately afterwards, Morgan finds out what she did, and she doesn't even try to deny it. She kills John. She kills John for basically no reason whatsoever, because after Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. I've been talking for so fucking long now. But anyway, because after she kills John, Morgan then just immediately finds out what she did, and she doesn't even try to deny it. So what was even the point of killing him in the first place? Like, she wouldn't have even tried to hide it. Like, and then, she was basically saying, "Oh, Morgan, you're gonna do what I want you to," even though there's no reason why he would have, because she just killed his fucking best friend. So why would she be have assurances that Morgan wouldn't just go crazy and fucking kill her, which, and it just, like, and also the reveal that she was the one who killed Cameron, I think did make sense, but I don't understand why she would be carrying the knife around her, the knife that she used to kill him, around with her as evidence, like, especially when she was so close to John, like, that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. And her being able to save Morgan from all those walkers that were surrounding him at the finale of season 5, that didn't make any sense. She's like a kid. How is she able to do all that? Like, and of course, the reveal that she she saved him because she thought that Morgan was the only one that could kill her sister, which didn't even make any sense, because, like, why did she think that Morgan would be able to kill Virginia? Like, he was dying on the floor when Dakota would have come to him, and Morgan was this no killing, completely pacifistic, I'll never kill anyone, like, character. So why would Dakota ever think that Morgan would be the one to kill Virginia? It made no fucking sense whatsoever. And, like, there were just a bunch of things about this episode that just didn't make any sense about the motivations of Dakota, and I just didn't. It was all just incredibly inconsistent. Didn't really make sense. A bunch of bad reveals, badly written reveals, and even though there were some great character interactions with and of course John's death, which was incredibly saddening. Just this episode just had a bunch of things that did bother me. Overall. But then now we'll get to episode 9. This episode was certainly interesting, to say the least. It felt very much like episode 9 of season 6 of The Walking Dead, in that it was the conclusion to a plotline that definitely should have been a finale. To say the quality of this episode was anywhere near No Way Out, however, would just be incredibly insulting. While this episode was entertaining, I found it very disappointing. Like, this episode pretty much wraps up the entire plotline of Virginia and the Rangers, and in my opinion, very unsatisfyingly. I mean, like, initially, Virginia is, bringing everyone back and lining everyone up, to get killed, but no characters actually end up dying, because Virginia is a pathetic villain who can't, kill any of the main characters to establish herself as a legitimate threat. So, and she just got defeated incredibly fucking easy, with Strand taking a stand against her and using the army that she let him build against her, which is also just incredibly pathetic showing for her. Like, it's just what bothers me so much about Ginny, as I said before, was that she just keeps losing throughout the entire season, where she just she just keeps having bad things happen to her and losing more control, but without ever, like, showcasing herself as a legitimate threat. And it's nowhere more clear than in this episode, because, like, she went through this whole thing of, in episode 2 of, I'm gonna build this army and I'm gonna put Strand in charge of it. And, one would think that she would be trying to keep a tight leash on Strand, since, he was part of the group that, Alicia and everyone else was with, and, he could have easily tried to turn against her, so she should have been wary of that. But no, she just let him, do his stuff and build his army and convince them to take her down, and she just got defeated very easily, which, it's such a pathetic showing on her part as a villain, that she just let Strand do all this stuff to take her down and turn everyone against her. It's just like, and then she runs away, runs away injured afterwards, and it was so incredibly pathetic the way she went out. I mean, you could say a similar thing happened to Negan, with him, with his subordinates turning against him, but, like, at least. But with Negan actually showed a lot more intelligence than Virginia did, with, him eventually finding out that Dwight turned against him, and using that against the main protagonist in the finale, or at least trying to. And, and at least, even though Eugene did betray him, like, at least Eugene actually proved himself of some major worth to of some major work to Negan beforehand by saving all of them from the walkers in in the sanctuary. So he actually proved his worth to Negan as someone that could do some real damage and was producing a bunch of bullets for them. And also, at least like Negan didn't give Negan didn't give Eugene like free reign to make his own army and convince everyone to fight against him. Like, at least didn't do fucking something like that. Like, jeez, my gosh. Oh, fuck, that was just... Virginia's such a fucking stupid villain in the series, my gosh. But anyway, yeah, there were some really dumb moments in this episode. Like, of course, Virginia's reveal that she was Dakota's sister this entire time, which is completely pointless and bullshit, and, like, not bullshit, it made sense, I guess, and I guess it was built up, but I just didn't... This episode was exciting, certainly a lot happened in it, but I feel like, it was just very disappointing in the fact that, like, everything really... nothing really, the whole plot line with Ginny and her people basically came to nothing, where they all basically turned on her, or at least almost all of them, and she just went out like a bitch, she just went out like a bitch, never really doing anything super villainous or killing any major characters. And it was also just incredibly confusing to me where Strand was basically going after her with everything and trying to say, "We will find you, Morgan. We will find you, and we will attack this valley if you don't give up Virginia to us." And that was just incredibly strange. Like, Strand, dude, like Ginny kidnapped people that he cares about. You can at least be a little bit understanding. It was just incredibly strange how Strand was all like, "Oh, we will find you, Morgan. We will hunt you down and make you pay for what you're doing with sparing her temporarily." And, like, again, as I said before, I didn't really have that much of a problem with Morgan ending up sparing Ginny, but I did like that they didn't just go down the exact same route that they did with Negan, where they spared him and had him locked up, because, I like that they did something different with June, of course, killing her, and it was a little cheesy how she was just walking away after that, like, all badass, like, "Whoa, I'm a badass bitch now." Like, that was just a little cheesy, but I did like her character turn and her decision, because it made total sense, and it was a pretty cool moment. But overall, there were some... Episode 9 was exciting, but overall it was, and a lot happened in it, but overall it was just very disappointing to me, and I really didn't like how the whole plotline with Virginia and the Rangers ended up turning out, so not a big fan of Episode 9. Anyway, then we get to Episode 10, and I honestly just got really annoyed with this episode when it first started out. Like, the dialogue from Daniel was just painful, and the story was, and really badly delivered as well, and the story was being told in a manner that I just really can't stand, where Daniel was basically recapping the events that had happened, like I was watching a detective show. Like, it just really bothered me when that was happening. Like, can you imagine if in Episode 4, like, the whole thing was basically set up to where, it would start out with John explaining the events that happened, and that would have just brought Episode 4 down for me a lot. And, I didn't like how this episode was set up. I didn't like how Daniel was, like, going through this whole thing of, like, telling June what was happening. I didn't really like that, and I didn't really like his dialogue. It just felt very painfully delivered from him. But overall, to its credit, the episode definitely did get better and more interesting as it went on. Much like Episode 4 did deal with the mystery subgenre, which did go unresolved in the end, with all the characters trying to find out who was responsible for, like, sabotaging everything. And there were a bunch of great moments, like, for example, Daniel, as I said before, basically almost killing Strand, and him actually, showing the damage that, the shot to his face did to him, which was a very uncomfortable scene, to be sure. And I like that they're actually addressing that Daniel shot him in the fucking face, unlike where it basically showed him pretty much completely fine in Season 5. And, of course, the twist that Daniel was an unreliable narrator, with him doing a bunch of things that he didn't remember and not quite knowing what was going on, which was definitely very interesting. They did a similar thing in Season 10C of The Walking Dead with Princess, but I found it more interesting here, since I find Daniel to be a more interesting character than Princess, who just got introduced in Season 10. But Yeah, I definitely liked this episode. I also liked how Daniel did feel like more of himself, with him going a little bit crazy and him, doing a bunch of things that were kind of fucked up, like him releasing all the walkers into the camp to find out if anyone had the guns. I definitely did like this episode, and the mystery aspect of it that was, again, left unresolved by the end. So yeah, overall, it started off pretty badly with the whole thing of Daniel like monologuing about how everything that happened, and just felt really cringy to me at first, but it did pick up. So yeah, anyway, then we get to episode 11, and did we skip a fucking episode? I mean, beforehand the characters were trying to find out more about this group who keeps spraying signs saying the end is the beginning, and now this episode just starts with them being taken down into the bunker. I mean, how did they run into them like that? Maybe it would have, like, I just think we missed an episode of them actually trying to go find these people and getting intentionally captured by them, and just like, it was just incredibly strange how it immediately cut to them being with them, and I just wish we could have actually seen more of how they were trying to locate them. But whatever. Regardless, I actually did like this episode quite a bit, and the underground cult just kept giving off really creepy vibes throughout the whole episode. Like, this episode had a lot of really great shots and really great atmosphere, and of course Wes I thought was a pretty likable character, with him going back and finding his brother alive, but him kind of turning crazy because of this cult who was basically brainwashing him along with everyone else. This episode was just very uncomfortable and uneasy, which I really did like. And of course the ending with them trying to get out, and them trying to get out, and Alicia, I think it was this episode, but I don't quite remember, and Alicia murdering those guys with, like, injecting one of them with formaldehyde. That was really, that was certainly very brutal, and I really liked it. And overall, this episode was pretty good, and I did enjoy it, but overall not amazing or anything. Then we get to episode 12, and I fucking hated this episode. I'm sorry, I did. I mean, I know a lot of people like this episode, but I just don't think anything about it worked at all, and it was the worst episode of the season. Like, the biggest problem is nearly the entire thing is just a dream sequence of Grace, a character I don't particularly care much about in the first place. And, like, why? Why are we doing this? I don't like it when The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead does this kind of thing. Like, where, how in episodes of The Walking Dead, like, it tends to do this thing where, a big portions of certain episodes will be spent in, like, sort of hallucinations or, like, dream sequences. Like, for example, there was that episode where, there was that episode in season 5 of The Walking Dead where Tyrese was just going through the whole thing, like, suffering all these hallucinations, and it just wasn't very interesting to me and felt pretty pointless and very prolonged as well. And then, of course, you have in season 10, which had a lot of hallucination scenes, like, for example, Carol going through those hallucinations, and Michonne, when she was drugged, going through all those trippy sequences, which were definitely fun, but not very needed. And this episode, where almost the entire thing was just a dream sequence, it was so entirely pointless. Why do this? Why have the entire episode be focused on this dream sequence of Grace going to meet her future daughter, but not really because she's dead, Athena, and, like, it was so incredibly pointless. Like, why are we not focusing more on Teddy's group and, like, the, psychotic killers who are trying to end the world, rather than this fucking dream sequence? It made no sense. Why do this? I don't understand it. And, like, there were some interesting parts of it, like, for example, whenever it did cut back to Grace and Morgan in the present and in the real world, and there were actually a bunch of scenes where, there were actually some scenes there where I did feel the tension starting to build, and, I was kind of being worried for the two's safety, as, it didn't look like they were doing too good. But I wish we actually saw more of that, and, like, the episode focused on more of them trying to get away from Riley and Riley and the people he took with them, and of course Morgan still killing those people. So there were a few things about this episode that were interesting, but overall it was just a complete fucking slog to get through, and I wanted it to be done so badly. And also, one of the dumbest moments in the entire series happens in this episode. So, get ready for it. So, Riley basically comes with all these guys to come and kill Morgan, or not really kill him, but just get the key from him. So he comes with all these guys, and then Morgan kills all of them and stabs him, But for some reason, like I said before, he lets Riley go, even though he's incredibly dangerous and could come back, and then Riley comes back with a gun and threatens him to hand over the keys. Okay, first of all, like I said before, why did Morgan let him go when he could have just come back? And why did Teddy not just bring a gun in the first place? Why did he let all of his people die by not bringing a gun, and then just left and then got a gun again to... I don't understand it. Why didn't Riley just bring a fucking gun to begin with? If it was so easy to basically threaten Morgan to giving them the key, if he did bring a gun, he brought all those people there to die because he didn't bring a gun, and then he went, and then he left, and then he brought a gun. Like, it makes no fucking sense. Why would he do something like that? It made no fucking sense. What the fuck? Oh, that was so fucking stupid. Like... Oh, jeez. Seriously, that was so fucking stupid. Oh my gosh, that was just one of the stupidest moments in the entire series, if I'm being honest. Like, maybe right up there with the splitting the bullet in half with the axe in Season 5. It was just so fucking dumb. This episode was just so terrible. It was really the only episode of this season that I just hated. I did not like this episode. I would never revisit it again. I did not like it. I mean, of course the ending was very tragic with Grace losing her baby. Even though I didn't really care about Grace that much, it was still obviously tragic for her to lose her baby, but very strange to me how it didn't come back as a walker, because I feel like that should have happened. But whatever, okay? Not going to question it. The walkers behave inconsistently as fuck in this series, but whatever. Still hated this episode anyway. Anyway, episode 13. I like this episode, honestly. As I said before, I do enjoy John Dory Sr.'s character, and I liked learning more about Teddy as well. This episode was just very interesting. I liked John and June's interactions in this episode. It was just a very enjoyable episode that I liked. Also there were definitely some tug at your heartstrings moments, like, for example, June reading John's letter to her. And John, with him, of course, talking about how, he was forgiving his father for what he did. And, I really liked John Dory Sr.'s character in this episode, even though they didn't do a ton with him in the future. But I just really liked him in this episode, and I just really liked this episode overall. But there was something that really bothered me about it, which is that I still can't fucking stand Sherry, and I just found her really extra and annoying in this episode with her dumbass idea to... I have to go back to Negan to kill him because reasons, whatever. I didn't care for her in this episode, or really almost any of the episodes, and I just don't find her character likable. So that bothered me about the episode, but overall it was still good. Then we get to episode 14. This episode would honestly just be really bland, if not for the fact that Teddy was a big part of it, which I definitely enjoyed. His character just brought some incredibly uncomfortable presence to this episode. Like, I really liked the way he was acting and the way the actor was, portraying him. Like, him going with Alicia and everyone, and everyone saying that, even if they kill me, it doesn't matter because I want her to kill me. That was just really interesting, an interesting part of his character. Like, his having so little regard for his own life was just, And I also found Alicia pretty cool in this episode, where she was constantly trying to, find out what his plan was throughout the whole thing, and it made sense why she wouldn't just kill him immediately, and it also made sense obviously, why Teddy would go with her, because he wasn't afraid of being killed and was fine with it. And I also liked how. It was also really interesting how he went and took them to basically go back to his mother's grave and pick up her body, and how it seemed like he cared for her so deeply, and was acting incredibly saddened when the body ended up getting dropped out of the car. But and then of course it's revealed that that wasn't actually his mother, and it was just a random body, and he killed his mother and buried her in the backyard, like when he was a child, which was just a really good twist, and I liked it, showing how insane this dude was, where he was basically acting like this was his mother, and acting like he was so incredibly worried. But then, just after that guy shot his mother, shot the corpse in the face, and he was just acting so calm about it. It was just really uncomfortable, and I really liked it. His character was just very entertaining throughout the entire episode, and of course the fact that the fact that little Sioux, Dakota herself, was, turning on Alicia at the end of the episode and joining up with him was a very interesting character turn. And this episode, again, as I said before, it would have been pretty bland, like introducing Cole and all those people who died from the stadium, coming back only to die basically immediately after by some walkers who they should have probably been better prepared to deal with since they were on their own for all that time. But yeah, Teddy just honestly steals the show in this episode, and I really liked his character moments in it and character interactions. So honestly, he did save the episode for me, and I did end up enjoying it with him being such a major part of it. Then we get to episode 15. I honestly really enjoyed this episode for the most part, as there was one unbelievably stupid thing that happened in the end. But the episode as a whole was very fun to watch and very tension-filled. I honestly got major Chernobyl vibes from the whole thing. With them... obviously, with the Geiger counter, them constantly trying to find out how much nuclear radiation there was, and going down there and trying to kill off all the walkers that were down there while trying to shut it down. It was very well shot. It was very tension filled, and it was a great situation that we really haven't seen before in The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead. And I liked how they were really going through with this plot line of trying to stop nuclear annihilation, unlike how in season 5 where there was actually nuclear annihilation with the power plant melting down, but they didn't try to do jack shit to stop that. I guess they learned their lesson. Now they are actually trying to stop nuclear winter from taking place, and it was just very interesting, very tension filled, and I loved the whole thing. And there were, again, as I was talking about in the beginning of my review, there were just a bunch of tension filled scenes where I thought that maybe characters would actually die, and I was scared for them. Like, even though none of them actually ended up dying, I was scared that they would, and I found this episode to be very compelling and very tension-filled, and I just really liked it. But there were just... overall, the episode was very good, but there were just some things that bothered me about it. One thing was Strand's plan, which I was just kind of confused about. Like, I don't know what he was trying to do with... I don't know what he was trying to do, or what he was... or what his ultimate plan was to get through to stop the whole thing in the end. I don't really know what was happening. His plan to leave Morgan for the walkers, I guess, so that he could distract them, so that they could get through. I don't really know. He just could have, since Morgan ends up fighting them off anyway, he could have just left. He could have just said, "Okay, Morgan, you hold these people off while I'm gonna go." Like, I don't. It was just very confusing to me, Strand's decision to do what he did. I didn't really understand it. Him trying to sacrifice Morgan when he didn't have to. Like, and then of course the thing that bothered me so much about this episode was after the nuclear missile does end up getting launched, and I really like that they actually did go through with it, with the missile getting launched. That was great cliffhanger, and I like that, in keeping with actual consequences happening in this show, they did fail, and ultimately the missile did end up launching, even if it was only one. And I did like that there were actual real consequences to their failure, but it bothered me so much why Morgan just decided to let Teddy and Riley go. Like, why would he do that? Why? Like, these two are incredibly dangerous, and they just launched a nuclear fucking missile. Like, sure, you stopped them from doing any more, but why would you just let them go? They could have just come back and tried to do the whole thing again, which, if you look at the finale, that's Teddy's plan. He was planning to just come back and shoot the rest of the missiles with Sioux. So why would you just let them go? It makes no fucking sense why Morgan would have just let them go. It makes no fucking sense. That was just... yet again, one of the dumbest moments in this series. Just, like, no sense whatsoever. Even if you were going to leave them alive, you should have stayed with them and tortured them to get information out of them, like Daniel and friends were trying to do when they caught up with them, even though, Morgan just fucking let them go in the end. It just made no sense. Oh my gosh, that just pissed me off so incredibly much. But anyway, then we get to episode 16, the finale, and quite honestly, I have to say I was kind of disappointed with it. I mean, I didn't really like it all that much. It's just basically a dragged-out compilation of everyone's last moments before it's revealed that literally none of the main characters die from any of the nukes. There was also just a lot of little things that really bothered me about this finale. Like, for example, what the fuck was up with the teleportation in this episode? Like, all the characters just, for some reason, they were all separated, which is a major trope in The Walking Dead and the Fear of the Walking Dead that it just does constantly with all the characters getting separated. But this time it didn't even make any sense with all the characters, like, trying to get away from one another rather than sticking together and teleporting to different locations, all over the place, like Strand coming to that random building. I don't even know where it was, and like, I don't know, like, there was that woman at the beginning who, at the opening, who, she gets her leg destroyed, who, it showed her in the last episode, in episode 15, she was with other people, so where the fuck did they go? Like, what was up with people teleporting all over the place and going in random places in this episode? I just did not understand it. Like, all the characters are separated for some reason. I didn't understand it, and it just really slowed the episode down because it had to focus on all of them individually rather than them reacting as a group, and it just made no sense to me. Then, of course, and that woman who, stabbed herself and, stabbed herself and killed herself so that her walker could follow the dog to get back to Morgan. That was a fucked up scene for sure. It was definitely very brutal, but I was just very confused by it, and like, it was just you couldn't have thought of any better plan. Like, why wouldn't you just attach your baby to the dog and have the dog go back to Morgan? Why did you have to, have yourself be turned into a walker that probably could have, heard the baby and eaten her? It's just incredibly confusing plan. And of course, it was also really stupid of that woman to, be so careless to have her entire leg destroyed. That felt just really, really unnecessary, and trying to build up the stakes, even though she really should have been more careful to not do something like that. But whatever. And of course, the Civic Republic helicopter shows up out of nowhere with, Al coming to them, because Deus Ex Machina, and none of the characters are allowed to die in this finale for some reason. And Wes spends time painting the ground while a nuclear explosion is going off. Like, what? He spent time painting the ground, saying it's not the end, or whatever the fuck he painted, while a nuclear explosion was about to go off, and then, like, it just goes off right next to where they are, and somehow the helicopter makes it out fine. Like, what? That's another thing that's up with this episode. Like, how the fuck did all the characters end up surviving? Like, Morgan and Grace, rather than, staying in the nuclear submarine to survive the blast, went outside of it and hid under a truck to survive. How? And they survived a nuclear explosion in a truck, under a truck. Like, this is Indiana fridge levels of stupid by now. And, Victor Strand, he basically survived by hiding in a building with glass that apparently didn't break by the shockwave. And, like, none of the characters, it was just so stupid because none of the characters ended up, like, having any major consequences, except for, of course, Dakota, who did end up getting scorched alive, which was actually pretty cool in my opinion, and a good way for her to go out. And of course killing Teddy as well. But the villains ended up dying, but none of the characters actually ended up dying from this nuclear explosion, even though, a bunch of them were in separate locations, so you could have had some of them dying with some of them making it out alive. And the other thing I don't understand is, what about the radiation poisoning? Like, isn't everyone who's been exposed to this just now going to die? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. The finale, it disappointed me. I did not really, I don't know how, like, I don't know why or how, like, all of them ended up surviving from the nukes, and it was just very disappointing to me, in my opinion, the finale. And also, where the fuck was Alicia? Like, seriously, where is she right now? You couldn't have had, like, any scenes with her before the season ends off. Just one of the strongest characters in this season. Like, whatever. What the fuck ever. But anyway, so yeah, I was not the biggest fan of this episode, as I have stated already, but yeah, that was my opinion of the finale. Overall, just kind of disappointing to me. Okay, alright, so, now I'm just going to talk a bit about, this season some more before I, end up, ending this review. One thing I will say that I did like about this season is that I do like how it actually references some things that happened before in the series, with the previous 2 seasons seeming like they completely forgot about. Like, for example, like the things I mentioned before, Daniel being unstable and going crazy was something that had precedence in Fear the Walking Dead before the massive time skip, and I like that they were bringing that up. Other things like Luciana remarking on how she used to be in a cult similar to Teddy's did something to actually make it feel a little like this was an actual follow-up of events that happened in the first 3 seasons rather than just completely dropping them. So I did like that there were like those callbacks to the first 3 seasons of Fear the Walking Dead in this season, and I did like that they weren't just forgetting everything about them. So that was something I did appreciate in this season. So let's talk about. Beyond that, let's talk about the overall plot of this season. How did it bear out in the end? Although the first half of Season 6 had some pretty good episodes, I honestly didn't really feel like the overall narrative of trying to take down Virginia was very interesting, and the whole plotline didn't really amount to anything in the end. Like I said before, I just don't find Virginia to be a particularly threatening or interesting villain. So, like, trying to take her down, unlike in The Walking Dead, where it was just, like, so engaging trying to see the group take down Negan, because it just felt like it was so difficult and so impossible. In this episode, they just did it fairly easily, and they didn't even show all that much of how they were doing it, with like a bunch of episodes just focused on like them going off on their own. Like, it just was not particularly engaging to me, the overall plots of Virginia, and like we didn't even really get to see a bunch of how a bunch of Virginia's overall communities and the people living there. It just was hyper focusing on the characters, and not really, which it had some good character work definitely in the first half of the season, but it just didn't really focus too much on the actual overall plot of trying to take down Virginia, and it just ended really easily anyway. So I did not really find the overall plot for the first 9 episodes of the season particularly interesting. But then we get to the conflict with Teddy's group, which I honestly found much more engaging to watch. I especially loved how Teddy's cult was built up and foreshadowed over the course of the entire season. It just felt he and his group had much more of a presence throughout the season, and his whole thing, it felt even though his group still wasn't really totally threatening, and a bunch of them were just getting killed by the characters. I did like how the reveal of what they were actually doing behind the scenes secretively, with like them being the ones to blow up the oil rig, not the oil rig, I don't know what it is. Yeah, I guess the oil rig, and them being the ones to wreak havoc within the valley and Morgan's community. Like, I did find them in their plan of like making new world, them trying to blow up the old one with nuclear weapons. That was very interesting, and like it's nice how the story is actually focusing on a plotline relating to nuclear fallout, which I think was one of the most wasted opportunities in season 5. Like, season 5 kind of hooked me with the idea of, oh, like there's this nuclear power plant melting down, and we kind of have to find a way to stop that. But again, what bothered me so much about the first half of season 5 was that they didn't actually try to stop the power plant from actually melting down, which could have a lot of lasting consequences, but they were just content to kind of just go away from it on the plane, leaving everyone there to die, which I like it a lot more in this season, how they're actually trying to stop the threat of nuclear annihilation. And I just found it very interesting. So I found the whole plotline with Teddy and the End is the Beginning group to be quite interesting, and I definitely did like that plotline. So I have to say, part of the story, the first half of the story in this season, I didn't find particularly compelling, but the last half I definitely did. So, yeah. Anyway, but we can't talk about the story without talking about how the story was paced. And to be honest, I don't think I was a very big fan of the pacing in this season. The season went for a more episodic structure rather than serialized, which I felt was ultimately detrimental. One of the things I really want to talk about is, like, why did we spend an entire episode in Grace's fucking dream sequence when we could have been dedicated more time to trying to locate Teddy's group? It just feels like another example, why did we spend all this time at the cabin that Alicia and Dakota find themselves at with that crazy guy, rather than, focusing on more of Virginia's new civilization and the group trying to take her down. Because as it stands, I felt like there were a lot of missed opportunities with things that this season could have focused on more, but didn't. Like, for example, like I was talking about before, Daniel could have gotten a lot more screen time trying to, with the audience seeing how he was working, how he was secretly betraying Virginia and trying to help Morgan and aid him and giving him information. But all of that happened off screen and we never got to see it. We could have seen more of how Strand was trying to manipulate people into following him instead of Virginia, but we never got to see that. We could have seen more of how the group was trying to locate these End is the Beginning guys and ultimately getting captured by them, but we didn't get to see that. We could have seen how, Morgan and Grace got into that situation with them being attacked by the End is the Beginning guys and trying to get the key, but we didn't get to see that. There were a lot of things that just skipped over a lot of things while also focusing on filler that I didn't really think was very necessary in the first place. Like, it just really bothered me how the season was paced, because it just felt like, it spent time on things that we didn't really need to, while also skipping over a lot of stuff that I think would have been more interesting and more necessary. So I was not a super big fan of the pacing in this season in the end. So yeah, that's about what I think about that. Anyway, so in the end, how does, because it came out, because it was airing at the same time, how does this season compare to Season 10C of The Walking Dead? Furthermore, how does this season of Fear the Walking Dead compare to the previous seasons? So, quite honestly, Season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead is not perfect, far from it, but it was definitely watchable in contrast to the unbelievable agony that was Season 5. I would say that this season of Fear the Walking Dead was better and more enjoyable to watch than Season 10C of The Walking Dead. Like, obviously the Here's Negan episode, the finale of that season was really great, and I really liked it. And there were also a couple of other episodes I liked. For example, the Gabriel and Aaron episode. I honestly liked that one quite a bit. But, overall 10C just kind of felt like 10C of The Walking Dead. Season 10 of The Walking Dead wasn't even really my favorite of the series to begin with it having a lot of problems in my opinion. But then you have to go and introduce 10C into there, which just had a lot of really pointless and painful episodes, like the Princess episode, the two Daryl and Carol episodes, which, those two are probably some of my favorite characters in the season, but their character episodes were incredibly boring and pointless. Like, I just really did not care for Season 10C of The Walking Dead, and didn't find any of their episodes particularly necessary or important, except for, obviously, the Here's Negan one, which was really good, and probably maybe better than all of the episodes in Season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead, because, Here's Negan was just a really great episode. But overall, I would say I enjoyed watching Season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead significantly more than I did watching Season 10C of The Walking Dead. So that's an accomplishment. The Fear the Walking Dead series doing something better than The Walking Dead series this time. So yeah, in the end, yeah. So this season of Fear the Walking Dead does definitely get points for that. And overall, in terms of Fear the Walking Dead, I'd say I would probably rank Season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead either. I'd say I would rank it third place or second place even, possibly, with it obviously being much better than Seasons 4 and 5. It being better than Season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead, I would say, and maybe I go back and forth with it being better or worse than Season 2 of Fear the Walking Dead, which that season obviously had some problems as well, but some pretty great stuff as well. But, honestly, so either second or third place in terms of the seasonal quality of this series, which, pretty good, except for when you consider that the overall quality of Fear the Walking Dead has not been all that great. So this season coming in second or third place is not too much of an accomplishment. But, of course, as I said before, it's not nearly as good as Season 3, in my opinion. But anyway, with all that out of the way, where do we go from here? What is the future of Fear the Walking Dead? This show has obviously been renewed for a seventh season, and quite honestly, I'm just kind of hoping that the show ends there. I mean, was this season a vast improvement over Seasons 4 and 5? Yeah, it is. Is the season complete shit? No, it really isn't, but the season certainly isn't perfect. I would say that, sorry, season 3 just honestly had much more of a consistently interesting plot than this season did, so I don't think it's as good as that one. And honestly, even if seasons 4 and 5 of Fear the Walking Dead were of the same quality as season 6 is, it wouldn't have changed the fact that this show was mangled to hell by the Morgan crossover. I mean, the show had an incredibly interesting story in season 3 that I was incredibly invested in, and if the writers were just going to drop it and make something completely different, then they shouldn't have even continued the Fear the Walking Dead series in the first place and just made a new show. It really fucking pissed me off that Morgan and Dwight were taking it. It also really fucking pissed me off that Morgan and Dwight were taken out of the Walking Dead show to come to this show, since they are at their most interesting interacting with characters who their entire story arcs have been built around. But now we are never going to see things like Morgan reacting to Henry's death or Dwight reacting to Negan joining the Whisperers that we would have got if they stayed in the series they were actually a part of. Fear the Walking Dead really had the potential to be its own thing and go in really interesting directions, different than The Walking Dead, but instead it became a complete convoluted, inconsistent fucking mess, and I'm just tired of it by now, regardless of the quality of this current season. The Walking Dead is going to finally complete its run soon with season 11, and I'm still incredibly excited to see what happens, as although the series has definitely had its low points, it has still managed to keep me consistently invested all this time, and told one continuous narrative with a consistent but evolving cast, and I cannot say the same for Fear the Walking Dead. I'm going to watch season 7 of the show because it ended on a massive cliffhanger in this season, but honestly, if all the characters don't just get sick and die from radiation poisoning, I'm going to be pretty disappointed. I just don't really have that much of an attachment to this series, not after being dicked around with 2 fucking terrible seasons, and the actual story of the show ending in season 3, and I just think it's finally time to put the show to rest. And you could have a good conclusion to the show, you could have it be relatively satisfying and good, but I'm just not really that invested to see what's going to happen next. It's not the same as it is with The Walking Dead, which is just kept me going after all this time. But I do have to give props to the creators of this season, because though I'm still not super invested in what happens, I felt like there was actual effort being put into creating this season. People tried to make the season watchable, and they succeeded, which I have to commend the creators for, unlike with seasons 4 and 5, where the entire thing just felt like there was barely any effort put into their production at all. They decided that even though they were working with a complete shit foundation, they were going to try to work with what they had and not just give up and make things better rather than, the alternative of just having another completely shitty season of Fear the Walking Dead. Effort. Imagine. And I'm glad they did, because it made it so much easier for me to actually sit through this series. So overall, yeah, season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead, surprisingly, was not total garbage, and it was actually kind of good. The writing still doesn't match what The Walking Dead has been able to offer, though as I said before, I actually did, for the most part, enjoy this season more than season 10C of The Walking Dead, although 10A and 10B were probably better than season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead. But anyway, that was my very long review. This has been the Aromantic Shipper. Please make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I am drinking water now, and I will see you next time. And of course, always remember, just because you can't feel love doesn't mean you shouldn't want other people to. Bye.